Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave the GOP response to the president's State of the Union. She said, quote, from out of control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China, Biden and the Democrats have failed the American people. Well, joining us this morning with more on the president's second address is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. And you were there for the president's speech last night. One of the more memorable moments, Congressman, is when you could hear at least one lawmaker shout liar when the president said Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare. And look, we know there needs to be some kind of reform on those programs because they are running out of money. So explain the GOP stance on this.
It's actually quite clear. The president has been lying to the American people about our debt ceiling negotiations. He has said repeatedly that Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare in order to raise the debt ceiling. That is not true. We've never said that. We do agree that Social Security and Medicare do need reforms. Those programs are going to go insolvent anywhere between 2033 and 2035, depending on what happens. So we have to look at those programs. But with respect to the debt ceiling, we are not considering anything with Social Security and Medicare. The president has been lying about this because he doesn't want to have to do the hard work, which is cut a lot of his reckless spending that has got us into this position in the first place.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said Biden was the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob. Tell me what you made of her response last night.
Well, I think she did a tremendous job. It's one of the better ones I've seen. And look, I will also say following Joe Biden, not the hardest thing in the world because the speech was incoherent. He bumbled through half of it. You didn't really understand where he was getting at. Then there were the times he wanted to shout, which he typically does, which I find to be odd. But her job, her performance was wonderful, and better than just a performance were the actual words that she used, the language, actually explaining directly to the American people what Republicans stand for, what we are about, and what we want to see happen in the United States going forward.
Why was it so important, do you think, to have her give the response?
I'm not sure if it was important to have her do it one way or the other. I just think that she was a great choice. Obviously, having been the former press secretary of President Trump, she understands how to deliver these remarks. I think that's one of the key reasons that she was chosen. But, you know, despite some of those reasons, she did a great job. Really thankful for her leadership. Excited to see what she's going to do as governor of Arkansas.
And Congressman, the latest headline that is dominating the news right now, the Chinese spy aircraft that was able to cross the U.S. for an entire week, as we know, surveilling strategic military sites before it was shot down. What did you make of the administration's response? And what should President Biden be doing right now moving forward with China?
Well, I think the response was typical of all of his foreign policy responses. Too little, too late, trying to lead from behind after the situation already got out of hand. This is not the first time this has happened. You had Americans who were basically speaking out loudly through their representatives in social media. Why aren't we shooting down this spy balloon? He should do that. He basically waited until it was in South Carolina to actually step up and do the job. Same thing with Ukraine. We knew that Russia was amassing troops for months at the Ukrainian border. Joe Biden did nothing. When Vladimir Putin initially invaded, Joe Biden wanted to give Vladimir Zelensky a flight out of Ukraine and just leave Ukraine to the Russians. He was forced to engage with Ukraine because Americans and, frankly, people around the world wanted to stop Vladimir Putin. Also, Afghanistan, he had a bad withdrawal strategy. He just wanted to let it happen. And then what ended up happening, he had to backpedal because Americans were caught behind enemy lines in Afghanistan. Once again, too little, too late, leading from behind, typical Joe Biden.
And there's still a lot of economic anxiety, Congressman, amongst Americans. There's recession fears. The economy, obviously, top of people's minds right now. As a lawmaker on Capitol Hill, what is your message to the American people in regards to the economy going forward in 2023?
Well, the tough part is it looks like we're going to be stagnating, like we're going to hit this stagflation era where we're not really growing. We might go into recession, but this inflation is sticky and it's getting worse. It's not 9.1%, but 6.5% year over year is still bad for the average consumer, the average family, seniors on fixed incomes. We have to get our energy markets up again. We have to have domestic production again. We have to start having real regulatory reform up here so you can kind of clear those lines in our economy so we can get back to a growing, vibrant economy where prices get under control. That's what Republicans stand for. If the president wants to work on these type of policies to get something done, we're here for that discussion. We're here for that work. but it's going to be tough sledding if the president doesn't want to reverse course on so many of his economic policies.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Anytime.